Good evening to everyone. It's 7 o'clock in the evening. So this is my second video, the continuation of first chapter, The Living World, 1.2, Diversity in Living World. Okay, in my first video, I had taken a long time by marking and all. So this time I have already underlined important points. I'm just going to read and then explain, and if I find some important points, I'm going to underline it. Okay. So, coming to the second subheading, diversity in the living world. If you look around you, you will see a large variety of organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, or pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they all are around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observation in the range, and variety of organisms that you would see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Okay, so here they are trying to explain the diversity in which we live. Okay, like if you just glance around you, you may see cow, a dog, a cat, or some plants, different kinds of plants. So this is what we call as generally diversity. Okay, diversity in life forms. Okay, this is what macroscopic view of observation. Like if you go into microscopic view of observations, if you even see your hand, you'll see 100 types, 1,000 types of bacteria, fungi, algae spores, fungi spores in your hand also. And if you take a handful of soil, you will see so many organisms. Okay, so next, coming to the next point, each different kind of plant, animal, or organisms that you see represent a species. Okay, like if you take a dog, it's a species. If you take a cat, it's a species. Okay, so they are trying to explain this thing. Then, now this is a very important point, maybe asked in NEET. Okay, and maybe also asked for 1 mark questions in your theory exams. In theory exams, it's very less possibility, but still, okay. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. Okay, this reference to biodiversity or the number of types of organisms present on earth. Okay, so definition of biodiversity in very short terms can be explained as the number and types of organisms. Okay, the number and types, that means various animals and their numbers. Okay, numbers and types of organisms present on earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. Okay, even if we go to a new place like which we have never visited, and also the old ones which we are already present in, if we give a clean observation, we'll find new organisms. Let it be what do you call microorganisms or macroorganisms. Okay, as stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize that the confusion that would be created if we did not find a way and means to talk to each other, to refer to organisms we are talking about. Okay, see, like if you take your own example, let us take your name as to be somewhat traditional name like Chandrasekhar. Let us take your name is Chandrasekhar. In your home they may be calling you Sonu. Okay, in your school or college where you are studying, there your friends may call you Chandu. Okay, when you are when you know your family, your friends, and you are present in the same place, if one calls you Sonu and the other calls you Chandu, like they'll be confused to whom you are calling. Okay, so to avoid this, you have a fixed name, that is Chandrasekhar. Okay, so that Chandrasekhar is known by your friends and also by your family, so that is the common name. So in plants and animals also we need to have certain common names. Okay, so that part where you are naming an organism is called as nomenclature. We'll study it further. Okay, now the next line is about nomenclature. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Okay, nomenclature means in general terms naming of an organism. Like the organism throughout the world should be known by one particular name. Okay, so that is what called as nomenclature. Obviously nomenclature or naming, okay, here they have said it very clearly, nomenclature or naming, that means nomenclature and naming are one and the same. Okay, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification. Like, see, if you are saying homo sapien, that means it's man. Like if you say homo sapien, that means you will be having a picture of a man. Okay, like there is a head, there is body, there are legs, there are hands, two eyes, a nose and a mouth, and two ears. That is what the identification, the picture which you will have in your mind when we call a homo sapien. If we call homo sapien, you won't be having a structure of a plant, isn't it? That is what identification. Okay, in order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. Okay, like see, if you are starting a long chain of nomenclature, that means you should be having a set of rules according to which a organism should be named, isn't it? This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. Okay, I think this is a very clear statement. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and certain and criteria which are provided in International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. This is very important for theory purpose as well as for need purpose. They may give the correct expansion if it's in need. They may give the correct expansion of ICBN is, and then the four options. Or else if it is the theory, they'll give expand ICBN. Okay, so what is it? International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Okay, it is only for plants. Botany means only for plants. Okay, so it is for only plant nomenclature. You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved international code for zoological nomenclature, that is ICZN. Okay, next, the scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should be enabled the people to arrive at the same name. Okay, like if the thing which I explained lastly, it is over here. Okay, they also ensure that such a name should not be used for any other organism. Like if you say homo sapien, you'll have one particular structure of homo sapien. Okay, that homo sapien is not used for any other organisms in the world. Like we can't say gorilla is a homo sapien, right? That's what they are explaining over here. Next, biologists follow universal accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has two components. Okay, now they are explaining how the name is suggested or how the name is written. Okay, one name has two components. That means two words in one name. Okay, the first word or the first component is generic name or generic epithet. Okay, and specific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called as binomial nomenclature. Okay, binomial itself is explaining it has two components. Bi means two, isn't it? Binomial, two names nomenclature. The first one is genera name and then it is species name. Okay, this naming system was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so you should remembering the scientist names also. It is Carolus Linnaeus. This naming system was given by Carolus Linnaeus, is being practiced by biologists all over the world. Okay, even today we follow this system of naming only. This naming system using a two words format was found convenient. Okay, let us take an example of mango to understand the way of providing specific names better. The scientific names of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Okay, so what is the specific scientific name of mango? It is Mangifera indica. Okay, let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represents the genus while indica represents the species. Okay, that means Mangifera is about the genus, is the name of genus, and indica is the name of species or specific epithelate. Okay, other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Okay, so there is a set of rules as I had said. Now we are going to learn how many, four of the rules. Okay, biological names are generally in Latin and are written in italics. Okay, this statement literally means that the word is from Latin but it is written in italics. Okay, it should be Latin originated and it should be written in italics. The first word should be genus while the second word should be species. Okay, uh, I'm skipping the reading over here because they are very easy. I have marked the important points. Okay, so the first point says about the origin and the writing style. Okay, it should be Latin originated and it should be written in italics. Second rule is that the first name or the first word in the nomenclature or in the name should be of genus and second component should be of species. Okay, then when they are handwritten they should be separately underlined. They should not be just left out like that. They should be underlined separately when handwritten, and when it is printed it should be in italics. Okay, why it should be in italics? Because to indicate that it is in Latin. Okay, the words are in Latin. Next, the first word should start from a capital letter, and the species or the second word, that is the species name, should be with small letter. As in example, Mangifera indica, Mangifera M is capital and indica I is small letter only. Okay, next, after this, if you want to write the name of author, like in Mangifera indica it was given by Linnaeus, so it should be Linnaeus should be written in abbreviated form. Okay, as underlined over here in abbreviated form. Example, Mangifera indica Lin, 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 that is abbreviated form of Linnaeus. Okay, let me read the whole statement. Name of the author appears after the specific epithelate, that is at the end of the biological name, and is written in abbreviated form. Example, Mangifera indica Lin, that means it is Linnaeus. It indicates that the species was first described by Linnaeus. Next, since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to uh, devise some means to make this possible. Okay, like you see, if you want to study about all the organisms, You can study about all the organisms at a time. So we need a specific way to go through them. So we need classification. This process is classification. Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. How is classification done? Classification is done on the basis of easily observable characteristics. Okay. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. See, if you say plant, that means you have certain structure, like let it be a neem plant, a oak plant. Okay. Oak tree. Okay, it's not a plant, it's a tree. Then if we say about animals, animals is like, a vast category. Okay, like if I say animals, you may have cats, you may have dogs, you may have insects, you may have elephants, you may have giraffes, what not, there are so many. Okay, like you will have certain things like they are different from plants. That is the basic ideology you have in your mind. Next, if I say dogs, you have a certain creature, a certain image in your mind. It's the same with cats and insects also. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with organisms in that group. That's what I said. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dog and not cats. That's what I was explaining to you. If you say dog, that means you will have a picture of dog in your mind and not cat or some butterfly. Okay. Now, if we were thinking about some other organism, what is this? Alsantians. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. We know that we are talking about what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hairs. Okay. See, if we are saying mammals, that means we'll have some ideology like it has external ears and body hairs. That means they are particular characters. Okay. Likewise, in plants, if we are talking about wheat, the picture in each of our mind will be of wheat, but not about rice or any other plant. Okay, they are explaining the same thing. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc., are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. Here, you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at a very different level. Okay, so this is, it's a very important point that most of the people miss out. If you say taxa, it can be at any level. See, plant is a taxa, wheat is a taxa, rice is a taxa, dog is a taxa, mammals is a taxa, animals is also a taxa. Like taxa can be said for each and everything. Like if you already know the hierarchical division, that is kingdom, phylum, classes, family, genus, species, and all of them are taxa at different levels. Okay, you should not confuse that taxa means only about species. Like some people do think in the same way, so you should not be confused about it. Okay, next. Hence, based on the characters, all the living organisms can be classified into different taxa. The process of classification is taxonomy. Okay, so it is VIP point. That means it is very important point. External and internal structures, along with the structure of cell, development process, and ecological information of organisms are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomical studies. So, see, like if they ask in your theory exam or in NEET exam, what are the basis of modern taxonomical studies? Means this should be the answer. What all? External and internal structure, structure of cell, developmental process, ecological information of organisms. how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. See, so there are 4 points. Okay, so it's a very important point. Then we have another important point. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the process that are of basic to taxonomy. Okay, so taxonomy is based on what? Characterization, identification, classification, and then nomenclature. Okay, like there are 4 things that should be done in a series way. First thing is that characterization. That means if we take an organism, first we need to note down all the characteristics it has. Okay, then identification, like it belongs to what species, phylum, kingdom, whatever. Okay, then classify, that means it's the same thing, and then nomenclature, that means naming process. Okay, so taxonomy should be done by 4 processes: characterization, identification, classification, and then nomenclature. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always done, has always been interested in knowing more and more about various kinds of organisms, particularly with the reference of their own use. In earlier days, human beings need to find source of their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. So earlier we used to classify the organisms on the basis of their uses. Okay, human beings were since long human beings were since long not interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also the relationship among them. Not only their not only the diversity, but also they were interested in knowing, that means we were interested in knowing the relation among themselves. Okay, this branch of study was referred as systematics. Okay, systematics is again a Latin word, derived from a Latin word, which it is called as systema. Okay, sorry, systema. Okay, which means a systematic arrangement of organisms. Okay, next. Okay, this is again a very important point. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication, so it's a very very important point in for NEET. Okay, Linnaeus, his first publication, not the first publication, he had written a book which was named as Systema Naturae. Okay, the scope of the systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. This is again an important point. Systematics is based on evolutionary relationship. Okay, relationship between organisms. Next comes taxonomical category. Okay, what is this? KPC of GS. Okay, it's it's, I don't know what is the particular name, but it's a short form to remember. Okay, I'll say about it later on. Next, classification is not a single step process, but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represent a rank or category. Okay, classification if we need to do, that means we go branch by branch. That means there are different levels, there are different ranks, there are different categories. Since category is a part of overall taxonomical arrangement, it can be called as taxonomical category. All the categories together constitute the taxonomical hierarchy. Okay, next, this is a very important point again: taxonomical category and taxonomical hierarchy. Each category, referred as a unit of classification, in fact represent a rank and is commonly termed as taxon. Okay, taxon is a singular, taxa is plural. Okay, they are given in brackets. Taxonomical category and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Okay, insects represent a group of organisms sharing common features like three pairs of jointed legs. Okay, insects means the it belongs to class, not class, phylum Arthropoda. Okay, Arthropoda is like jointed appendages. Okay, so they have three pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable. What is it? Cons- Concrete objects which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Like you can name, right? It's a question for us. Um, Remember, groups represent categories. Categories further denote ranks. Each rank or taxa, in fact, represent a unit of classification. These taxonomical groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Okay, they are not just morphological aggregates, that means similarity in morphological categories, but they are biological entities, distinct biological entities. Okay, next, taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum, classes, order, division, family, genus, and species. Okay, to remember this, I have found out a short form. You can remember as KPC of GS. Okay, K is for kingdom, P is for phylum, C is for class, O is for order, F is for family, G is for genus, and S is for species. It's like KPC of GS. I know it does not make any sense, but still, for remembering purpose, you can make it out. KPC of GS. Okay. All organisms include those in plants and animal kingdom have species as the lowest category. Now questions you may ask is how to place an organism in various category. The basic requirement is the knowledge of characters of an individual or group of organisms. This help in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of same kind of organisms as well as of other kinds of organisms. Okay, this was not something very much important. Next, let us go to the next heading, that is species. Like they are explaining each and every taxa. Okay, now the lowest taxa is species. Taxonomical studies considered a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. Okay, what? Okay, sorry. Taxonomical studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. Okay, GS, isn't it? Species is a group of individual organisms which have similarities in themselves. Okay, one should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological difference. Okay, if you have not understood now up till this four sentences, they have explained with an example which is very easy to understand. Okay, let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, and Panthera leo. Mangifera indica is mango, Solanum tuberosum is potato, and Panthera leo is lion. Okay, all the three names, indica, tuberosum, and leo, represent the specific epitheliate. Okay, epitheliate. Okay, according to binomial nomenclature, the second word or the second segment or the second part of the biological name or the scientific name should be species name. Okay, while the first word Mangifera, Solanum, and Panthera are genera. Okay, hmm. and represents another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epitheliate representing different organisms. but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithelate called tigris. Okay, Panthera leo and Panthera tigris. These are two different species, but comes under same genera, that is Panthera. Okay, and Solanum indicates the species like Nigrum and Melangina. Okay, here again it's the same thing. Nigrum and Melangina are two different species name. Okay, and Solanum is one single genera. Human beings belong to the species Sapien, which is grouped under the genus Homo. So hence it has the name as Homo sapiens. Okay, is it clear? Next, genus. Genus is comprised of a group of related species with more characters in common in comparison to species of another genera. Okay, see here the sentence is a bit twisted. Okay, like here they are not directly saying the species which have common characters are grouped under genus. Okay, it's not that. They are comparing among the species. Like if we take species A, species B, species C, and species D, if species A and D have more common characters, that means they are grouped under the same genus. Okay, if in case species A and species B have more common characters, they are categorized under same genus. Okay, so they are comparing between the species and then grouping into genus. Okay, next we can say that the genera are aggregates of closely related species. That's what I had explained. Okay, for example, potato and brinjal are two different species, but both belong to same Solanum. Same genus. What is it? Solanum. Okay, it is Solanum, tuberosum, and Melangina. Okay. Again, it's the same thing with lion, tiger, and leopard. Okay. Panthera is the same genus. Species are Leo, Pandarus, and Tigris. Leo is for lion, Tigris is for tiger, and Pandarus is for leopard. With several common features, all species of the genus Panthera all are belonging to the same genus. This genus differ from another genus, Felis, which includes cats. Okay, like they say they are from the same family. Family is again a higher order, higher taxa. Then comes family. The next category or the next taxa is family. Has a more related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. See, in taxonomical hierarchy, if we write the flowchart from kingdom to species, the number of similarities increase as we come from top to bottom. Okay, and if we go from bottom to top, the number of similarities decreases. Like species have more common characters, but kingdom has very less common characters. Okay, so it is family. The next category, family has that's what I was explaining. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. Okay, so for making up families, they have vegetative and reproductive features as basis or basic thing. Okay, on the basis of vegetative and reproductive features, families are made up. Okay, among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in same family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera, consisting of lion, tiger, leopards, is put along with the genus Felis. That's what we were saying. Lion and cats belong to the same family. Okay. In family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separate into two different families, Felidae and Canidae. Okay, respectively. That means cat belongs to Felidae, and dogs belong to Canidae. Okay. Next, next comes order. Okay. Again, here the very important point which I have underlined is generally orders and other higher taxonomical categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. That means orders, classes, phylums, and kingdoms are based on similarities. Okay. The only thing is that family is based on vegetative and reproductive features in plants. Okay. In animals, it's again aggregation of common characters, but in plants we have vegetative and reproductive features. In orders, it's aggregation of characters. Order being the higher category in assemblage of families which exhibit a few similar characters. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. Plant families like convol Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae are included in the order Polymoniales, mainly based on the floral characters. The animal order Carnivora includes families like Felidae and Canidae. See, uh, what is it? Order Carnivora includes both the family of cats and dogs. See, again, there is some similarities between cats and dogs, and there is much more differences between cats and dogs. But still, they are in the same order. What is it? Carnivora. Then comes classes, category including related orders. Again, the same thing. If there are much more common characters, that means they are included in the same class. For example, order Primata, comprising monkey, gorilla, and gibbon, is placed in same class Mammalia, along with order Carnivora, that includes animals like tiger, cat, dog. Class Mammalia has other orders also. See, Mammalia is a class. Okay, it has all kind of animals. Like, see, if you take Primata, that means primates. Like, we are also a primate animal, isn't it? Monkey, humans, gorilla. Okay, these all are primates, and it also includes tigers, cats, and dogs also. Even it also includes animals such as cubs, buffaloes, and gorillas. All the animals come under mammalian. See, like you can come to know how different we are from gorillas and how different gorillas are from tigers. See, there is a lot of difference, but still they come under classes, and under the same class. Okay. Then comes family. Again, it is based on common features. See, in family, in phylum Chordata, we have humans, we have fishes, we have reptiles, we have aves, which are very different from each other. Aves are some animals which fly. Reptiles are creeping and crawling animals. Fishes are the animals which swim in water. Mammals mostly are those animals which live on land. Okay, which they are very different from each other, but still they come under same phylum, which is Chordata. Then comes kingdom. Again, it is the same thing, aggregation of similar characters. Okay. See, in kingdom Animalia, we have very primitive organisms such as Hydra, like poriferans and all. which are like having cellular level of organization. And also we have the most complex organization, which we are humans, homo sapiens. See, these both come under same kingdom, which is animalia. That means it has a lot of difference in itself, but still it has something very much common than as compared to kingdom plantae and fungi and also algae. See here it's very they have given the flow chart: kingdom, phylum, classes, order, family, genus, and species. That is what KPC of GS. Okay, see, if we come to the very basis, that is the species, that means similarities are very much. Okay, in a single species, we have a lot more of similarities. Then comes genus, where we have a bit of difference. Then family, bit more difference than as compared to genus. And then going on like that, kingdom has a lot of diversity in itself. Like it has very much difference. Okay, in the next chapter we'll come across five kingdom classification of Whittaker, where we'll come to see there are five kingdoms, okay, which are very much different among themselves. Then comes, okay, taxonomical aids. I have underlined some important points over here. Let us go through it. As we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characters goes on decreasing. That's what I was saying. Lower the taxa, more the characteristics that the members within the taxon share. That means, that's what I was saying. Species have more number of similarities. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relation to the other taxa at the same level. See, if we come at the kingdom level, kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plantae are very different. Like Plantae is heterotrophs and Animalia mostly are almost all are heterotrophs only. Okay, so that means they have like very different from each other. They have given examples over here, like common names, biological name, and also their classification, taxonomical categories. See, if we take man, it is Homo sapien. We all know it. Genus is Homo, families Hominidae. Order Primata, class Mammalia, division or phylum is Chordata. Okay, so you can go through all the examples. Next come taxonomical aids. See, mostly there are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so there are only 5 taxonomical aids, which are very easy. I'll just go through the important points and finish up. Okay, taxonomical aids, taxonomical studies are useful in agriculture, forestry, industries, and in general knowing of bioresource and their diversity. Okay, like if you go through the NCRT, the points which I have marked are the most important things. If you still are not satisfied with my points, you can go through the NCRT once. Okay, if you are a NEET aspirant, it's very good if you go through the NCRT as much time as possible. Okay, like if you are going through it once, you may mark 10 points. If you are going through it 10 times, you'll like you'll be thorough with each and every point. So it's better to go as many times as possible. Okay, now coming to the point, taxonomical studies are useful for agriculture, forestry, industries, and also knowing in bioresources and their diversity. Next point, biologist. Okay, I'm reading only the points which I have marked. Okay, biologists have established a certain procedure and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as the specimen. See, like if XYZ species is endangered. Okay, do you know the meaning of endangered? Endangered means like the species which are about to be finished from the world. Okay, like they are no more. Like only one to two animals are present and they are also about to die. Okay, those are endangered. So like those species can be preserved and can be, like shown to the further generations. For that, biologists have done certain procedures and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as the specimen. First thing is herbarium. Herbarium is a storehouse of collected plant specimens and are dried, pressed and preserved on sheet. Like we have a herbarium sheet, okay. In that we have, the plain space where we can paste the specimen, the plant specimen, which is dried, pressed and preserved, okay. Further, these sheets are arranged according to the universal accepted system of classification. Like arrangement is also a very important process of herbarium, keeping the herbarium sheet. If you just mix up all the things, that means it would be a huge a miracle if you find the correct specimen at single time. It would be a very big miracle. So you need to classify, like you need to keep everything in a systematic order, so according to accepted system of classification. Then next point is herbarium sheets also carry a label providing information about the date and the place of collection. See, herbarium have information about the date and the place of collection. English, okay, local and botanical names. Okay, so the English name, the local name, and the botanical name should be mentioned on the herbarium sheet. Family and collector's name. Okay, collector's name, to which family the specimen belongs, and also the person, the name of the person who collected it, etc. Herbaria also serves as quick referral system of taxonomical study. It's very easy for accessible. It is very easy and accessible at any time. Okay, botanical gardens. See, botanical gardens are those gardens where, like you plant a tree and then label it according to its scientific botanical name and also the local name. Okay, these specialized garden have collection of living plants for reference. See, the main difference between herbarium and botanical garden is herbarium has the dead plants which are pressed and pasted on a sheet, okay. But botanical garden have live plants, like they are living, okay. Each plant is labeled indicating its botanical or scientific name and its family. See, the labeling has botanical and its family name. Then the the famous botanical gardens. This statement is also very important for NEET. Like many times they have asked. So the famous botanical gardens are Kew, which is in England, Indian Botanical Garden, okay, the National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow. Okay, so there are three, England and two in India. Okay, museums. Museums, like the you may be having in your school or college, whichever you are studying in, you may be having museums, small museums, okay. Like the dead specimen is kept in some liquid and then preserved for observations, okay. Specimens are preserved in container or or IRs, I don't know what is it spelled as, pronounced as, in preservating solutions. Plants and animal specimens may also be preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect box after collecting, killing and pinning. Okay, insects are not just kept out, they should be killed and then pinned, okay. Large animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. Okay, museum often have collection of skeletons of animals too, like the skeletal model of humans, the skeletal model of tiger. Those skeletal models also may be present in a museum. Then zoological parks. Zoological parks, like the commonly they are called as zoo, where live animals are kept, are preserved, not preserved, actually left free in a specific area. Okay, and they are, like it's, they'll try to their hardest thing to give as favorable climatic conditions as the animal requires. Okay, these are the places where wild animals are kept in a protected environment under human care. Okay, they are kept under protected environment under human care, and which enables us to learn about their food habits and behavior. Okay, so next point. Okay, this is about the zoo. Key, like you need to concentrate over here. Most times the question is asked from key, and people get confused over here. Key, like it's based on similarities and dissimilarities. Okay, it is not just like, okay, it is tiger, Panthera tigris, genus is this, and phylum, it belongs to phylum Mammalia. No, it's not like that. Like it has two statements. Okay, like, okay, we'll read it, you will come to know. The key are based on the contrasting characters, generally in pair, called as couplet. They have two statements which are contrasting each other. Like, I don't know what kind of statements you do. Let us take for an example. It has vertebral column, it does not have a vertebral column. That means you need to choose one statement and then, leave the other statement. So these kind of two statements are called as couplet, pair called as couplet. Each statement in the key is called as lead. Like, that's what I said. No, it has vertebral column, this is one lead. The second statement is it does not have vertebral column, this is another lead. And this both together are called as couplet. Are you getting it? Yeah. Separate taxonomical key are required for each category. Okay, for each taxon we need a separate key. Okay, keys are generally analytic in nature. Okay, next, see, we have some other taxonomical aids also: flora manuals and monographs and catalogs. These are another four. Okay, in flora contains actual account of habitat and distribution of plants in a given area. This provides the index of plant specimen found in a particular area. Okay, flora is all about the plants, the habitat which is found in, the distribution of plants, and also the area in which it is mostly found. Then comes manuals. Manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names of species found in an area. Okay, name of species found in an area, this is manual. So manuals. And then monographs contains information of any one taxon, only about one taxon, not about all the taxon of one animal. Okay, they should be noted down. Okay, so here we come to an end of this chapter. Okay, so these are NCERT questions. Better if you answer them for your theory exams and as well as NEET. Okay, thank you.